joined wonderful team of my colleague Jonathan Perry, who was our former grad student, learning scientist Jonan Donaldson, and undergraduate students. And we published several papers trying to measure this impact, something that practitioners know just from experience. We tried to measure this and put it in some data that were published. So during next 10 minutes, I will first tell you about the programs that we run, short overview of the programs that were included in this study, not all programs that we run, but the programs that were included. And then I will show you data before I give it to Jonathan Perry. So Texas A&M Physics and Engineering Festival started in 2003, was founded in 2003. We had 7,000 people attending the festival, and we have about 300-400 students facilitating this event, helping to run this event. So the festival is celebration. You see the grand finale when thousands of people get together to celebrate physics. It's wonderful. I love it. So next festival will be on April 13th. I just want to mention that people come to the festival not only from Texas, but also from other states. So everyone is invited, okay? Now, when the festival started, it was just a lecture by Stephen Hawking. So from the very beginning, it was national statement and a dozen of hands-on demonstrations. Now we have 200 of these demonstrations. And this picture just summarizes the essence of the event. So we invite everyone, those who love physics, science, those who don't like. So it's celebration. Everyone comes and enjoys it. Behind is undergrad student. She just learned about electromagnetic induction in her class, and she presents a demonstration. And here is the department head. So on the day of the festival, no one cares who you are, undergrad student, department head, Nobel laureate. Everyone is there. Everyone is working hard to make the festival a success. We are famous for a record number of physics faculty, professors who participate in the festival. This provides quality that sets an example to our students of incredible service to the community. Now, the festival happens once per year. So how to keep this enthusiasm for outreach throughout the year? In 2012, we founded a program that is called DEEP, Discover, Explore, Enjoy Physics and Engineering, when our students work throughout the year on design, building, and presenting new hands-on demonstrations. So about 70 students participate in this program per year, and some of these demonstrations are used in our undergraduate and graduate classes, which is wonderful because these students leave a legacy. So they are undergrad students, they build something, and then when they leave, we still use these demonstrations. So this is superconducting track, obviously, and those students were undergrads when they build it. And now I show this demonstration just to every visitor who comes to our department. I just showed it in my electricity and magnetism class. This demo ended up on the front page of a Society of Physics Students Observer, and programs similar to DEEP program are started now by our graduate students, DEEP mentors at UT, Austin, and at Rice. So people who graduate, who leave, they start similar programs. And this experience is incredible for grad students also. Now we run physics shows. When K-12 come and we first entertain them with liquid nitrogen, something exciting, then demos that they can do at home. And then, of course, mini festival and grand finale outside. And our students, Texas A&M students, help with these events. Some people cannot come to our department, so we filmed our demonstrations and posted them on realphysicslive.com. So this project was supported by APS, and we were very grateful. And after a short period of time, when initial funding was over, APS continued supporting us, and our students filmed these demos and presented and started these demos and wrote scenarios. Now we bring our demonstrations to the places where people already are. About 70 students participate in these events. So we bring our demos to football games. We open our doors to people to stop by before football games and play physics. We bring them to heritage festivals. So the idea is that not everyone will come to university campus. So let's bring them where people are. So this astronaut wears our game day physics t-shirt on board of International Space Station. And of course, this t-shirt was designed by our students, undergrad students. So all these programs that I mentioned, Physics and Engineering Festival, Deep, Physics Show, Real Physics Live, and Just Add Science and Game Day Physics, they were created at different moments in time. And the idea was, of course, we wanted people to enjoy this. We want to target this audience or that audience. But all of them provided our Texas A&M students with incredible experience. So leadership and teamwork, communication, peer mentoring, networking, experiential learning, peer learning. And we decided to run a study. So 2019, we wanted to know what is the impact. We want to know how does it help to build STEM identity, this feeling that you are a physics person, you are a STEM person. We want to measure students' integration into physics community. We wanted to feel does it help them to develop their soft skills? And of course, much broader experiences, seeing new perspective, empowerment. So just, the framework that we had to use had to be very broad because the experiences that students shared with us were very rich. So we developed a survey with the learning scientist, and the survey was sent to participants of our outreach programs, people who participated, who facilitated programs between 2014 and 2019. We received 117 surveys. So for outreach, for informal physics programs, this is a large study. And 35 of these people agreed to give us interviews. So framework was created. We coded these interviews. We analyzed this survey, and the results were very encouraging. It is published in Physical Review, Physics Education Research. This is just a short summary. So this is frequency of soft skills. Students reported, majority of them reported that it helped them. This is self-reported data. So before we just get overexcited, this is self-reported data. Obviously, this study has limitations. I'll talk about it a little bit more, and Jonathan, I'm sure, will talk about it. So they reported improving their communication, speaking skills, presentation skills, both undergraduate and graduate students. So this experience is helping not only with just undergrad, also grad students. It helped them to plan, design, build. It provided them with opportunities with teamwork. So we just to analyze and visualize all this really complicated interconnectedness interconnections between different codes and between different ideas expressed by our students in these interviews. We employ this network map, which shows the relationship within the codes. And I will just give you a summary. Motivation was front and center of this map. One of the most important ideas shared with students as a result of facilitation of these programs. It was interconnected with improved communication skills, excitement, interest and motivation, teamwork, persistence in the major, and becoming an expert in the field. I want to say that through this outreach, I probably have felt closer to the physics community than I have through my classes themselves. I think going out and teaching other people physics made me feel like I knew what I was doing and made me feel like I could keep going on the route of being a physics major. You are going to tell something to 5 years old and to 65 years old. You really need to learn how to speak on their level. I have done teaching. outreach itself, but managing and delegating will be very useful as I continue in my PhD. You build demonstrations, so you have to have a plan for them. This is all very real world application stuff. And last two quotes that are very important to me. You just feel like you have a place that you can belong in. You are contributing something. And I think when you feel like you're contributing something to a community, you feel more a part of it. This is a quote from female undergraduate student. And one more. I wasn't sure if physics was a good fit for me, but I have definitely been really reaffirmed that it's something that I want to do and something that I can do and something kind of I'm actually able to do. So we included everyone in this study. It was not a gender study, not at all by design. But when we were coding and analyzing the results, we realized that there is a special impact on female students who are usually underrepresented in physics. So we decided to run another study when we used the same database, but we created a new code book when we concentrated on the contracts specific for experiences of female students in physics. First of all, we analyzed the survey results, and what we found was quite impressive. So there was statistically significant difference in confidence of choice of major prior to participating in informal programs. And this difference disappeared after facilitation of informal programs, okay? So from the interviews, what we saw was that 100 of female students reported characteristic indicative to growth mindset, increased interest and motivation, positive persistence, which means that this experience helped them to stay with the major. So external recognition and confidence and self-efficacy, these constructs that help a lot, according to literature, to persist, to stay in the major, and not only persist, to flourish. So I'm running off time, and I give it to Jonathan Perry, which will tell you about the next step. And before I do it, I just mentioned that this study was wonderful. We published 2 papers that we are very proud of on impact, big picture, with all these constructs and big code book. And the second one specifically on impact of on female students. But that was just one school. And we wanted to know, and this is self-reported data. That's another limitation. So we wanted to know, is it something just specific to these programs, or it can be said about other undergraduate students? And that was our next step.
So I'm going to pick up where Tatiana left off. We're going to describe actually one more viewpoint we took with this data, and I will get into some of the national survey. Now, just a note, and getting into this, when we did these interviews with these 35 students, they were very rich interviews, and they talked a lot about different things. The questions that we asked them were geared more towards, eliciting things about like identity and worldview and the impacts from this. They weren't necessarily asking them like, what did you learn? And yet they spoke a lot often about this, the impacts they had to their knowledge, what skills they gained that reinforced from what they got in the classroom, and stuff that wasn't even related to the classroom. So I actually went back to this, I'll admit, a third time with a slightly different perspective, really wanted to focus on what kind of learning seemed to take place. And for this, we define the learning as growth in disciplinary knowledge, as well as a broader process of change. So going back to our good friend, the learning scientist, who's always been willing to help us approach this data, we've made, again, another code book, but we're drawing on ideas from a few fundamental theories: situated learning theory, social constructivist, transformative, and constructionist, developing a new slightly slimmer code book, about 23 codes, but targeting on things related to like that transition from novice to expertise, engaging in specific practices relevant to physics or ways of knowing, the ways that they discuss information with other people, negotiating meetings, scaffolding, zone proximal development, as well as some other things we see here about like changing the perspectives on things, engaging in making, designing, building, and then some outcomes. What did the students report from their own experiences related to physics, non-physics, and then really just their plans for later. So going back through this coding process, which means many hours looking at these interviews and coding things among a team and achieving a high iterative reliability, we produce another map, which we saw briefly before. So this is a map where the edges result or show statistically significant links at the less than 0.01 level. And here we actually see also 3 clusters. So we looked at a Gervin-Newman algorithm, which basically says what ideas are more closely related to each other than they are to other things. And it produces really 3 major themes from this study. Those major themes we identify or we talk about as this: disciplinary development, stuff really directly related to the physics, our internal development of our students, and their external engagement working with audiences through outreach. Now, each of these 3 clusters was interconnected to the others along some very interesting lines, like things that related to their current degree plans, like staying in physics, engaging in research, picking a particular topic, seems to really be strongly tied to this legitimate peripheral participation, this sense of I'm moving from being more novice to more expert within my field. But then this disciplinary development related to engaging with an audience through that ways of knowing for physics, how we know and understand our physics topic, really seems strongly tied to scaffolding, that engagement of, remember the quote, talking to someone who's 5 versus 95. You were toggling your message, your code switching to many different audiences. And this allowed students to kind of refine their understanding, their knowledge of the material. Then, of course, our internal development and external engagement, interestingly, had multiple connections, mostly through identity practices, either from peers or from themselves, but also through a number of things of just engaging dialogue with an audience to kind of achieve understanding or help them, engage in similar physics type practices. Now, of course, this is sometimes best represented through quotes, things that kind of exemplify what we see here. So just a couple quick quotes all from undergrads. One says, there was this moment of clarity, I think, in kind of getting a sense of who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. Or from another perspective, knowing it well enough you can teach other people with it was instrumental to me in realizing I knew physics. Or physics outreach really forces you to be able to explain an idea in a variety of levels. Things that relate to this theme of improving knowledge or improving understanding through these activities. So now we're very excited about these. It kind of matches our lived experience with it. My lived experience too. I started outreach at A&M in 2014 until I graduated, and I still do some. For clarity, I am not part of the data set at all. They excluded me from that. And so while these are interesting, as Tatiana said, they're all from a single institution. They are all from students who engage in one or more of these programs that Tatiana described. And admittedly, that institution, as we can tell, has a robust outreach program, really led by, a very vigorous and engaged faculty member who drives these experiences very well. But if we're going to make conclusions about this, we said we really need a broader data set. We really need to know what this looks like across the country at many other institutions. So we set about trying to create a national survey. And for this, we needed a little bigger team. So Tatiana and myself, along with Tony Sansi from Texas Lutheran University, partnering with the American Institute of Physics, their Statistical Research Center, and with just lots of assistance from Brad Conrad, the former director of Society of Physics Students, we put together this proposal, which was funded by the NSF-IU's directorate, to build a national sample, to build this survey so we can go out and sample these constructs around the country. We did do this. We distribute a pilot survey to our 3 institutions, UT Austin, Texas A&M, Texas Lutheran, last year in the winter. And we got some responses from that. We used it to refine and validate our survey a bit. We actually ended up on changing just like one question, a little bit of wording for some clarity. And then we sent it to all of your American students that we had email addresses for this past spring. And so trying to hit, places from all across the country. So SPS had a national database of about 5,500 emails from chapters across the country, and we sent it to all of them. That was pretty good. And then we sent reminders. We chose to use the email database instead of an open survey to kind of cut down on potential, bad responses or bad actors from bots and whatnot, so we could be sure that we are really getting data from current physics students. Our results from this, we have about 700 responses from across the country. We would have liked more, but this is what we end up having. About 100 of those came from the 3 pilot institutions combined, and the other 600 from the rest of the country. This kind of shows you the breakdown a little bit of our survey response data. About 11% are international students. We actually have really good representation, I think, from women across the country, about 40% of our data set. We're skewed a little bit towards upperclassmen, juniors and seniors. That may just be because of the nature of the SPS email list. They're more likely to be on those than freshmen are. We have about a quarter or so of our survey come from people who identify as members of the LGBTQIA+ community. And about 70% of our respondents said they engaged in some or most of the outreach opportunities at their institution. I'm particularly happy about that because it actually gives us a population of those who didn't do it and those who did. We can make some comparisons between. Now, the analysis for the quantitative responses, there's about 50 or so questions on rating scales as well as some demographic items. Those are currently still being analyzed at the Statistical Research Center, so we don't have anything to show from that today. But I do have a little bit to show very preliminary from the open-ended questions that we included in this. And with the survey, we gave people 3 open-ended questions if they engaged in outreach. We asked them, what has been your most memorable experience from participating in physics astronomy outreach? Or how has participating in outreach provided you with opportunities to use your physics astronomy knowledge in the real world setting? Or how has your perception of yourself as a physicist changed through your participation in physics astronomy outreach? So good news is we actually have a lot of responses from this. So about 70% of students engage in outreach of some variety. So about 500 students were posed these questions and about 240 answered them. So about half gave us answers, and mostly they answered all 3 questions. So we have 650 total written responses that we're going through. For those written responses only, we actually have pretty close to almost even numbers of men and women identifying individuals responding to this. It is still primarily white. We have a good section of persons of color who have also responded. And we have about equal number of answers from PhD granting institutions and bachelor granting institutions, some of the demographics that we asked. Honestly, so that we can eventually make some comparisons between these groups. Do PhD institutions and bachelor institutions seem to have the same kind of impact, or are they different qualitatively, depending on the institution type? And so while we're still in the process of looking at these, and I hope to actually have more for AAPT's winter meeting next month to share, I do want to just offer some representative quotes from this group so far. One, it's really helped me with the unmathing of my language when talking about physics astronomy. I'm a very math-oriented person, and many, many people despise math. So outreach has really taught me how to describe physics astronomy using things like analogy. Or from another student, Largely, I feel that I now have a much better conceptual understanding of my field, which helps me be more confident in my work. But more importantly, outreach has helped me understand the vitality of science communication and how valuable a skill that is for a physicist. By taking part in these events, I have had the opportunity to grow that skill set and become an entirely different person because of it. I no longer feel like just a student in the physics community, but also an active member of it. Or, and this last one really reminds me about being a student in outreach. It helped me realize that I know more physics than the average person, and it helped alleviate the imposter syndrome that is so prevalent when beginning a physics career. So we are finding very similar kind of themes from this broad national sample that we did at a single institution. And we're really looking forward to being able to share our thorough analysis and conclusions next year is our hope for a publication. So now I believe we transition to kind of more open discussion phase.